everyone, this is the late take. You might have seen Anmol and me on Instagram, but now we're doing it for YouTube. We will be here every Monday talking about the films that released the week before. We will also take in your comments, which we do read, and we'll be talking about trailers and shows and everything that has to do with pop culture and entertainment. Anmol, welcome. I'm so happy to have you at Film Companion.
Yes, we've been talking about this. We kept it like under wraps, but I'm glad we're finally doing it. So yeah. And we, I guess, also like stated that YouTube's our home. So it does make more sense to be here.
It is, and let's dive right straight into it. Of course, the big release last week was Jugjugg Jeeyo. You go first.
Oh, okay. So yes, I usually go in for a dharma movie just wanting to be entertained. I did not go with any expectations of expecting anything different other than having a few laughs, getting emotional by the end of it. But sadly, I rarely went through those oscillating feelings at all. You know, a lot of things didn't work for me, ma'am.
I'm trying to get him to call me Anu, he says no.
Yeah, sorry. I don't think that'll ever happen, but let's keep it at this right now. So, ma'am, for me was, first of all, I felt like first half was just comedy setup. Let's take them to Patiala and like get the whole Punjabiness going. And for me, like I was, again, as I keep on discussing with ma'am about like not reading what people are saying on the internet, but I was reading things like Laugh Riot and, you know, Manish Paul. Every step of the way is like, it's pretty crazy on what the theater experience is going to be like. It was a total miss for me in terms of comedy, at least. And you know, people are saying that I understand that there's an intentional like PJ after PJ, which is sort of like the kind of vibe of the film, but I just couldn't take it. Like I wasn't even like investing into the universe and the kind of like wacky characters, because I felt like the writing was like really like bottom of the barrel stuff. Like for him to say fresh तभी हो सकते हैं जब party या potty करते हैं, and I was just like I'm not
laughing.
That doesn't work for me. And so what did work for me, I think, was when it does get into the emotional overdrive, which was, and I was very pleasantly surprised with Varun's conviction, and I loved Neetu ma'am in the film. So for me, holistically, it was a little all over the place, whereas I don't think the emotional overdrive was just enough for it to be a great experience for me.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not. You know, I liked it more than you did. I thought it was passable, nice, you know, sort of undemanding entertainment in that sense. But I just felt it could have been so much more, because the idea for me was so interesting that there are two young people who want a divorce, and then they understand that the two older people are as unhappy as them. You know, and I just felt like that sort of parallel didn't really get explored enough. But I think what lifted it, and yes, the problem is the writing. It is that and you know, you're oscillating between two tonalities. It has to be funny, but it also has to go into some very serious things. And that's a tough thing to do for any director. But I think what held it together was really the actors. You know, for me, all of them did a really good job. And there are moments, Anmol, I felt where you could see what this film could have been, like that completely full-on raging fight between Varun and Kiara's characters. And you see that he got to that really raw and ugly place that men and women can get to, you know, partners can get to. And I just felt like, oh my God, I wish we had more of this, or the bench scene, which I loved between Neetu and Kiara, or, you know, or the idea of like Anil Kapoor being an older man who's just not happy with this marriage that he has. I just feel they didn't do a deep enough dive. But the acting for me, like, I was very interested in the fact that Cuckoo as a character is somebody who's insecure and foolish, and you know, it felt to me like a little bit of a relief after all the hyper masculine macho men we've had in the last 5-6 months, that chalo ek to banda hai jo thoda rota hai, who messes up, kuch to kar raha hai, you know. But I also loved what Anil did with that role. You know, I feel like he was very nicely fake.
Okay.
And nicely not authentic. And again, there's that lovely scene where he tells Varun that don't mess up like I did. Don't put your happiness before. To me, that could have been so much more. You know,
ma'am, just expanding on the same, for me, I found Anil Kapoor sir's character to be really frustrating in terms of its progression in character arc. For me, he wasn't happy in that marriage, so he sought for companionship with someone else. He doesn't want to be physically involved with them,
which was very curious.
Which was odd. And
very odd.
I felt like they dealt with male infidelity in a rather odd manner of thinking that, say, if we are taking a hypothetical scenario where Manish and Varun corner him to get involved with, say, a Russian dancer as it was. So would that be the solution? Would that be like a quick fix into his marriage? And what I felt kind of undid whatever progression that he may have had in the end was that I'm going to hit on your mother again.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I thought that there was a sense of closure when you were in the court and you told her you're doing the right thing. But now you're like, no, I'm going to chase her and like pursue her again. So it kind of like made me think that you've had probably no sort of progression or evolution
as a human being.
As a human being. You're the same guy who is not really interested in the wife, but just for the kick of it, you want to like pursue her later.
So that's the problem with the film, Anmol, that it doesn't want to risk enough.
Yeah.
You know, which is why Anil Kapoor, even though he's massively flirting, will not have sex. And that's underlined कि हमने तो कभी छुआ भी नहीं, एक उंगली touch करती है तो कुछ हो जाता है type, you know. So I feel like it just, as a filmmaker, Raj was too timid about the subject that he was dealing with. But I also really love Neetu. I think there's such a sort of sadness that she brings to it, and such a dignity that she brings to it. And you know, I'm like you, I'm always happy to sort of lose myself in the dharma universe of beautiful people, sort of first world problems. You know, it's all, I love it. I love it. It is sort of pleasurable in so many ways. If a scene is boring, I'm looking at the clothes. Right?
But you know, that's so true on what you expanded upon. Those sort of raw, visceral moments of the bench scene or the argument, more of that would have like really
been spectacular.
Really been spectacular. And for me, the biggest bummer for me is I'm obsessed with music, I'm obsessed with dance. And when Dharma doesn't deliver with its music, like 3 of the 4 songs are all remakes or renditions of previous songs. So I was kind of bummed out. And me just seeing Varun really perform, even like really relaxed songs, I was like, guys, like, you know, there's a very performative nature to the dance numbers also, which I felt like was kind of.
But I was very happy about Do Dil Mil Rahe Hain.
Oh, Do Dil Mil Rahe. That was great. See, that's a great
Wasn't that lovely?
Yeah.
I've been listening to that song on a loop since I saw the film.
I thought Tiska Chopra was fun.
She was lovely. She was lovely. She's just. She brought such a panache to it, you know.
You know, ma'am, I think they could have even expanded upon her sort of shock of being like, okay, this guy's a baby. I don't want to babysit this man. It also like sort of caught me off guard of she had already made up her mind when he stepped in front of her door.
Yeah, I think they sacrificed the emotion for the comedy.
Yeah.
And it didn't really serve the film.
Ma'am, I at one point of time thought that Manish Paul's done, you know, in the sense his comedy is done, and he comes in the last scene. New York mein old York hai, and I was just like, come on, dude.
I have to tell you, I found him very funny.
Oh God.
So we completely disagree on this one.
He's like, अपना नई दिल्ली सही है, दोनों है, नई दिल्ली old. I was like, no.
I laughed, Manish.
Okay.
I can't tell you I didn't. I did laugh.
Manish has got a fan.
Yes, I just called you Manish, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Listen, we also saw Elvis, which was I thought spectacular. For me, too long. Because visually what Baz Luhrmann is doing is so stunning that every frame has a whole story happening, that I was actually visually exhausted by the third hour.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't, like, my
It is a
eyes,
fever dream.
yeah, my eyes were getting tired.
Yeah.
But Austin Butler is just spectacular. Though I have to say, Tom Hanks didn't really work for me.
Yeah.
Did he work for you?
It is the visual aspect of Tom Hanks didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like it was rather gimmicky, the bodysuit and the huge double chin. But I feel like as Baz Luhrmann does is a sort of dramatic representation of what may be like real life figures. I think that's what he attempted at Great Gatsby also,
Yeah.
where it almost he wants a vintage antagonist for, you know. What I didn't connect with was, again, ma'am, this stylized, fast-paced screenplay, which again I got a tad bit exhausted with. But for me, so I took my parents yesterday, and
Elvis
they're of
fans?
that generation.
Huh.
They've loved that music, and just to see them tap their feet, clap after every
Yeah.
performance, it definitely. And it worked for me, especially that first performance, ma'am, especially on how he shot it. This sort of organic, odd need to shout for women. I thought it was like done so beautifully.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I agree, the screenplay was a tad bit too much for me. And as biopics somehow progress, it's like one milestone after the other in quick succession. So you're just like covering timelines at one point of time. I wanted to ask you, ma'am, what's your opinion on like biopics? Not really, I mean, I guess that's what comes with the territory, that you don't get into the thorny subjects. You almost like create a scenario where the protagonist is surrounded by sort of leeches, and, you know, he's constantly, you know, being screwed around, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's anything.
Yeah.
It's almost as if like he doesn't have anyone. So I felt
It's a tough
like
one.
it's
no?
a tough one.
Yeah. Because you see, he's a great artist, but obviously not a perfect man.
Yeah.
Obviously flawed, obviously scarred by the things he's endured in his lifetime. And it's a very difficult one. For me, the most interesting biopics are those that kind of usually like they use specific instances to demonstrate the larger personality, rather than like this checkbox of born here, did this, then went here, then went here. You know, I feel like many Indian biopics are guilty of that. They always do the checkboxing, which just becomes like, oh my God, now let's be done with it.
They aren't going to stop anytime soon.
No.
there are a lot more to come.
But I thought his performance.
Oh yes.
I'm hoping he gets nominated for an Oscar because he was
100%.
outstanding.
No, still remember immediately getting out of the theater, and that last sequence, especially when he's a little overweight.
Yeah.
I actually couldn't see the difference, like in certain frames. So he's done a spectacular job.
He's done such a good job. Such a good job.
Yeah.
Now you also saw Forensic, which I didn't.
I think, ma'am, it's another case of me coming to the conclusion Vikrant Massey can blend in any universe. He can ham it up if he needs to. He can be understated if he needs to be. It's again a remake that tried to make it its own by changing up a few things which were not required at all. And it was, after a long time, I've seen Radhika Apte really be intense with her performance, and that's not a good thing, in the sense almost like grimacing with her face with every expression. So I somehow just did not connect with her performance this time. It's again, I don't know why it's happening, but Hindi film production companies are remaking already products that are considered to be average in the local languages as well.
Correct. It was just so weird.
Yeah, so whether it be Nikamma, which we saw last week,
Yeah.
which everyone should watch if they want to really have a migraine, and whether it be Hit, which is Raj's next movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're doing products that are already not, like, say, you know, celebrated by them. So all in all, a very average fare, and I wouldn't really recommend it as like a OTT viewing experience. Yeah.
You know, I saw Sherdil, and you know, of course, that Pankaj Tripathi, Neeraj Gabi, like what a stellar star cast, and Shayoni Gupta, and a great story. You know, this idea of people kind of willingly putting themselves in front of tigers so that they get compensated by the government and the family has some money. But you know, Shajit Mukherjee, it just kind of drains the juiciness out of this. And I have to tell you, Anmol, there was a scene in which Pankaj Tripathi and Neeraj are taking a dump together, their characters, okay? And then you hear farting sounds. And then they both have dodgy stomachs. So then one of them, I think Neeraj's character says, "Sab pani, pani." And I was like, okay, you know, this is too much information.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was like, okay, cannot.
I think, ma'am, you expanded upon like they spell out so much where satire goes out of the window.
Absolutely.
Right?
He's just underlining everything, and and Pankaj is such a lovely actor. You can literally watch him do anything, right?
Yeah.
He's so amiable and charming on screen, but this was a tough one. Let's take comments.
Yeah. Guys, we've been reading all the comments that you've given us, especially of the Jugjugg Jeeyo review. So we always want to see what kind of feedback you guys have. So we'll read a few of the comments. So the first one that we have is with Sadia Ahmad. She said, I had really high expectations from the movie based on the trailer, but it felt like something was missing. I wish there was more depth to the story. I wish Beam and Geeta had a one-on-one conversation about how they would avoid falling back into older patterns. I mean, I guess
this is true. This is true. I didn't think about that. That they don't actually
have a one-on-one.
Yeah, they don't actually. The other thing I thought was very inconsistent was the fact that she agreed to marry him again. Sorry guys, this is spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen the film, don't see it. But that really threw me.
I remember, ma'am, I was like, did they cut a scene?
Huh?
What happened? Because
Yeah.
the switch Neetu ma'am has was, I was like, is she that easily convinced?
Correct.
Or does she
It
love
was
this
very
man
odd.
so much? That was definitely like a progression
Huh.
where I was like, okay, let's just go with it.
Yeah.
And what I didn't like also, ma'am, just expanding upon this was, Varun is all pally with the dad in the end scene, but he was like reprimanding him in front of everyone the scene before.
Yeah.
So I was like, so you accept him for his flaws? Has he said sorry to you? Like, there's so much like we still talk about the visceral, raw energy that could have led to so many conversations that didn't happen.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Yeah.
Alright, so here's a comment I got on my review from MIS Iyengar. The movie is largely superficial to be taken too seriously. The wine drinking scene between MIL and DIL, the fight between Kiara and Varun in the room, which I like by the way, and the final showdown between Varun and Anil towards the end give it some weight, but the characters are loosely written for us to invest in them, root for them. All the three men, AK, VD and MP, have some fab humorous scenes that make it an overall watchable affair. I would agree. I think overall, for me, it was watchable.
Yeah.
You got more irritated.
I guess I did get more irritated with the comedy, and I understand the sentiment also of like, say a movie like this or Bhool Bhulaiya 2 does for the masses.
Yeah.
It is a good weekend watch. They just want to chill. They just want to laugh. I guess expected a little more in the comedy aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, so I just, taking a segue here, I just watched Bhool Bhulaiya, which I missed because I was at Cannes, and I had a really fun time.
Yes!
I had a really fun time. I love that moment where he's talking to the ghost about making dal. Oh my God, I was just cracking up. I was like, this is fun.
You saw it on Netflix?
I saw it on Netflix.
Okay.
I thought this is so much fun.
A lot of people have a shift in medium. It's not necessarily
Because you're
a Netflix
investing
film.
less now.
Yeah. But I had fun. So I'm getting trolled for it now because people are watching it on Netflix and they're like, ये क्या तुम्हें ये पसंद आता है and all of that. But
hello, you're talking to the woman who loved Befikre.
Yeah.
So
we'll never forget that.
Never forget. Okay.
Yeah. Lastly, we have Bhavika Kosambia who's written, I think when Neetu Kapoor says शादी के पहले साल में ही मुझे समझ आ गया था कि कुछ तो गलत हुआ है. The film manages really to touch the audience because I wasn't expecting her to say that. And the fact that she knew way before Anil did, but still stuck with the marriage tells us who had a bigger sense of responsibility and perceptiveness.
Agreed.
I agree. I definitely think Neetu ma'am was definitely a more deep, layered character who had much more to communicate than Anil sir.
And this line was very heartbreaking. It was very moving because I'm sure it's the experience for so many women who go into arranged marriages to discover that, oh my God, maybe this wasn't the right choice. It was lovely. It was lovely.
Yeah.
So Anmol, we are almost out of time, but let's quickly talk about the trailers we've seen. The big ones are, of course, Vikrant Rona, Raksha Bandhan, Shamshera, which I have to say, I'm intrigued also by Vikrant Rona and Shamshera in the world building.
100%.
You know, that the fact that now, and it's something that I'm thinking more about, like why are filmmakers choosing to go into places that have no connection with today's reality? Maybe because it's too difficult to make films about today's reality.
It is. I think, ma'am, just sort of like expanding upon the escapism aspect of what is going to motivate audiences to come to theatres. I think they're tapping into that.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kannada cinema with Vikrant Rona, the director has previously done it. He made a movie called Rangi Taranga.
I haven't seen that.
So again, eerie characters, a universe that you can't really recognize, and a person from the outside coming in. So I think it's similar to that vibe, and it looks very interesting in terms of scale and world building.
Yeah.
I hope it delivers on the same. Shamshera, like I'm like so worried about, because I remember watching the teaser and I was so engrossed with sort of the tonality of it, because it reminded me of Karan Malhotra during Agnipath.
Yeah.
But the trailer made me worried on how much Ranbir can do. Can he do action, comedy, and then get into the intense bravado-ness also? Will it be too much, like I guess what Amir was doing during Thugs of Hindustan, where he was doing everything? That's what makes me kind of worried.
And I wonder why they revealed that there are two Ranbirs.
My biggest pet peeve.
Yeah, why couldn't we have that in the movie? But I tell you, in Ranbir I trust, even though he's done some terrible films. Yeah. But he's such a fine actor that I feel like he'll carry it through. What did you think about Raksha Bandhan? Kanika has written it, which gives me faith, because I felt, and I understand it's small town, it's that whole vibe of North India small town, which Anand L. Rai does beautifully, and Himanshu, who's co-written it, also does beautifully. But just the idea of, I think what made me most uncomfortable was the sister who has weight issues, and the fact that she's not marriage material, and the way they talk to these women, you will have to pay me to
kidney based.
Kidney. I just felt like this just feels like so not right for the time and the world that we live in.
Seems like Suraj Bajatiya universe.
I'm not even sure, because it just felt like this whole idea of women being such a weight, and which is not to say that this doesn't happen. But I don't know what a film like this would probably tell us. But like I said, Kanika's co-written it.
I feel like we'll be surprised, ma'am, because I tweeted the same thing, that Kanika Dhillon's written it, and I was getting called out by like some senior critics who were like, oh yeah, those are some landmark films you're talking about. I was like, that's not the point that I was trying to make. Yeah. Female characters in her universes have something to do, something concrete and meaty to do. So I feel like it will progress into that, hopefully. But I am worried about some of the aspects we saw in the trailer, yes.
Well, there's lots to look forward to. And we will be back.
Especially next weekend.
Especially next weekend. There's Rashtra Kavach Om, there's Rocketry, and the week after that there's Thor, which I am so excited about. Yes. So we will be back here.
Yes, lots to discuss.
Lots to discuss, and thank you for watching. If you want to see more of Anmol's reviews and all this amazing content he creates, go to Trident Reviews.
But don't forget to subscribe over here also. Film Companion.